Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're breaking down a controversial traffic stop that ended with a sheriff claiming he was unlawfully arrested, publicly humiliated, and ultimately receiving a multi-million-dollar settlement. What began as a routine traffic stop quickly escalated into a situation that raised serious questions about officer discretion, identification procedures, and accountability in law enforcement. As we go through this footage, pay close attention to how both sides communicate, how the officers respond to new information, and whether the actions taken were reasonable based on what they knew at the time. Let's begin.
You realize I'm the sheriff of this county?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm the sheriff of this county. All right?
Okay.
You pulled me over. You've made your contact. You gonna
Okay.
write me a ticket?
I mean, I wasn't going to. I was just going to make sure you had your
Write me a
driver's
ticket?
license on
I
you.
got my driver's license.
I was just I was just asking to look at it, and then I was going to send you on about your day.
Okay.
That's all I was doing.
There's my driver's license.
Okay.
And there's my commission card.
Okay.
The first thing we hear is the driver stating, "You realize I'm the sheriff of this county?" This statement immediately changes the dynamics of the encounter. From the officer's perspective, this could sound unusual. Law enforcement officers occasionally encounter people falsely claiming authority or status in an attempt to avoid enforcement action. However, from the driver's perspective, he appears to be identifying himself and informing the officers that they may be dealing with a fellow law enforcement official. One important observation is that the sheriff remains relatively calm during this exchange. At this stage, neither side necessarily knows how the situation will unfold. The officer must verify information, while the driver expects his identity to be recognized and confirmed. The key question becomes, how thoroughly did the officers investigate his claim before escalating the situation? The officer responds, "I wasn't going to. I was just going to make sure you had your driver's license on you." This statement suggests that the officer initially intended a routine encounter rather than a formal citation. The officer explains that he simply wanted to verify identification and then allow the driver to continue on his way. This is significant because it shows the encounter may not have started as an aggressive enforcement action. Good police work often involves verification before making assumptions. If someone claims to be a sheriff, the logical next step is confirmation through identification, dispatch records, agency databases, or supervisory consultation. The question viewers should consider is whether those verification steps were completed before more serious actions were taken. The driver then provides both a driver's license and what appears to be a commission card. A commission card is generally used by law enforcement personnel as proof of official status. At this point, the officers have physical documentation that supports the driver's claim. This moment is critical because the entire investigation should now focus on verifying the authenticity of those credentials. The availability of identification changes the situation significantly. Once credentials are presented, officers typically have additional tools available to confirm identity rather than relying solely on personal recognition. The major issue in this case appears to revolve around whether the officers accepted, rejected, or adequately investigated the documentation provided. According to the narration, officers had already removed the individual from the vehicle, placed him in handcuffs, and treated him as a suspect. They reportedly suspected him of impersonating a law enforcement officer. This is the most controversial phase of the encounter. Handcuffing someone is a significant use of police authority and is generally justified only when officers believe there is a lawful reason to detain, investigate, or arrest a person. The sheriff reportedly continued identifying himself while officers remained skeptical. This is where viewers will likely have divided opinions. Some will argue that officers cannot simply accept someone's claim of authority without verification. Others will argue that once credentials were presented, the officers should have slowed down and carefully verified the information before continuing to treat him as a criminal suspect. This tension between caution and overreaction is at the heart of the case. The transcript indicates that supervisors eventually became involved. After supervisory review, the situation reportedly changed dramatically. The handcuffs were removed. The officer's tone changed. The sheriff's identity was apparently confirmed. This suggests that additional review or verification resolved the uncertainty. Supervisory oversight exists precisely for situations like this. When uncertainty exists, a supervisor can provide an independent assessment and help ensure decisions are legally and professionally sound. The fact that the situation changed after supervisory involvement raises important questions about the earlier decisions made during the stop. The incident did not end when the handcuffs came off. According to the transcript, the sheriff filed a lawsuit alleging unlawful arrest, excessive force, public humiliation. The case reportedly resulted in a settlement worth approximately $5 million. Large settlements typically indicate that significant legal concerns were raised, although settlements do not always mean every allegation was proven in court. Civil lawsuits involving law enforcement often focus on whether officers acted reasonably based on the information available at the time. Courts and attorneys frequently examine officer decision-making, available evidence, department policies, training procedures, supervisory actions. A settlement of this magnitude inevitably draws public attention and scrutiny. Several lessons emerge from this case. First, verification matters. Officers should thoroughly investigate claims before escalating situations. Second, communication matters. Clear explanations and professional dialogue can often prevent misunderstandings from becoming major incidents. Third, supervision matters. The involvement of experienced supervisors can help identify mistakes before they become costly legal problems. Whether viewers believe the officers acted reasonably or not, the legal system ultimately became involved to evaluate the consequences of the encounter. This case remains a powerful example of how quickly a routine traffic stop can transform into a major legal controversy. Supporters of the sheriff argue that he was improperly detained despite presenting valid identification. Supporters of the officers argue that law enforcement must investigate suspicious claims and cannot simply accept every statement at face value. Key talking points. The sheriff remained calm despite being detained. Officers appeared skeptical of his identity claim. Identification was reportedly provided early in the encounter. Supervisors played a major role in resolving the situation. The case highlights the importance of verification before escalation. The reported $5 million settlement suggests serious legal concerns were raised. Viewers can debate whether the officers acted reasonably based on the information available to them.